Hi gang, I'm Heather and I'm the author of Brain Surfing, the Top Marketing Strategy Minds in the World. This book came out 4 years ago and I never did an audio version, so welcome to my house. Settle in, I'd like to read it to you. Let's start with the introduction. I once read Mitch Albom's Tuesdays with Morrie, don't judge, and felt compelled to copy the ending into my notebook. Have you ever really had a teacher? One who saw you as a rare but precious thing, a jewel that, with wisdom, could be polished to a proud shine. If you are lucky enough to find your way to such teachers, you will always find your way back. In my experience, only if you are very lucky will someone take enough interest to dedicate his or her time to teach you. Instead, usually you have to find ways to be satisfied with merely observing the leaders in the companies where you work, or with reading the online musings of the practitioners generous enough to share their insights. That's how it's been for me anyway, in most of my 14 years as a strategist. Lots of people have strategist or strategic in their title, but I'd bet money a good majority of them are 100% adults doing grown-up work in pleated slacks. I, on the other hand, have the ultimate Peter Pan type job where I get paid to play with ideas. In the world of advertising agencies where I've worked, my career has proved to be almost a calling. While I began my career working for respected integrated shops in the US, Mullen, the Martin Agency, and Crispin Porter and Bogusky, it wasn't until I moved to the Netherlands that I got to try my hand at international business and digitally led ideas at Tribal DDB and Strawberry Frog. As my resume got longer, my strategy skills grew and became applicable to more and more roles. In addition, the changing business landscape opened opportunities for me to focus on a proliferation of possible specialties. For example, digital, social, channel, or user experience strategy. The types of companies hiring strategists snowballed beyond agencies to include innovation consultancies, startups, and even the marketing departments on the client side. As my brain grappled with this paradox of choice, my own insecurity would nag. Why don't I feel like an expert yet? What don't I know that I need to learn? Advertising agencies have all but abandoned training programs. Not so smart in a business that depends on people's performance. As an employee with various agencies, I've been sent to the occasional conference or 3-day presentation skills seminar, but I've never been presented with a company curriculum designed with the objective of developing my skills. This has frustrated me at times and made me feel like I'm just trading my time on this planet for a paycheck. I want more. My past assumptions about how to gain expertise had led me to believe that excellence requires a convergence of innate abilities, motivation, and learning the right skills, not to mention a bit of luck. I thought I had a good amount of intense practice at learning the right skills under my belt. I even thought I'd earned my 10,000 hours badge by this point. The 10,000 hour rule, now widely known, states that it takes about 10,000 hours of practicing a specific task to master it. And that doesn't include time spent merely gazing out the window during a conference call. Given the effort I've put in, I thought that after 10,000 hours, something magical would happen. Confetti from the ceiling, perhaps. When I still didn't feel like an expert, even after so much practice, I began to investigate this 10,000 hour rule. According to Anders Ericsson, a psychologist and the originator of the theory, the hours need to be spent stretching beyond our comfort zones. The development of genuine expertise requires struggle, sacrifice, and honest, often painful self-assessment. There are no shortcuts. It will take you at least a decade to achieve expertise, and you will need to invest that time wisely by engaging in deliberate practice. Practice that focuses on tasks beyond your current level of competence and comfort. You will need a well-informed coach, not only to guide you through deliberate practice, but also to help you learn how to coach yourself. Above all, if you want to achieve top performance as a manager and a leader, you've got to forget the folklore about genius that makes many people think they cannot take a scientific approach to developing expertise. I did a little more research and discovered that Benjamin Bloom, an education professor at the University of Chicago, had studied mastery learning by looking at the childhoods of 120 elite performers across a wide array of disciplines. His findings? There's no correlation between IQ and expert performance. Instead, the magic formula is this: intense practice, enthusiastic support from family throughout the developing years, devoted teachers to study with. I found another clue pointing me toward devoted teachers in the book The Craftsman by sociologist Richard Sennett. In it, he describes the way medieval goldsmiths learned from masters. An apprentice would first earn room and board while copying what everyone else in the workshop was doing. After about 7 years, if he passed a test to prove he knew how to work with the material, he became a journeyman. Wandering from workshop to workshop and learning a variety of approaches was a crucial step to becoming a master craftsman. Reading this made me wonder if the answer to my struggle could be found by becoming a journeyman. What if I sought out new inspiration from some top performers in my field? Would anyone be game to let me shadow them? Could I somehow recruit people to invest in my development and challenge my thinking? These questions renewed my adventurous spirit. Although I didn't know it at the time, the seed for this idea had originally been planted 9 years ago. I was working as a mid-level strategist and was due for my performance evaluation, but I had no idea whether I should be asking for a raise or not. I wanted to know not only what people with similar amounts of experience were making, but also the difference between the genders, if any, because I'd read so many studies showing that women are generally paid less than men. Without an objective source of information, I had no way to ground a conversation with my boss. So I sent out a survey to people I knew in similar positions and asked them to spread the survey among their networks too, promising them I'd publish the results. 130 people completed the survey, and I was able to negotiate a raise and a promotion for myself, based on facts rather than wishes. I published the results and received so much positive feedback about how helpful it was that I continued to conduct the survey each year. Over time, I expanded the questions to learn more about different approaches and industry perceptions, not just how much money people made. More and more people participated each year. It seemed a wealth of potential masters might be positively predisposed to let me learn from them in a journeyman type situation. My journeyman idea was emboldened by Stefan Sagmeister's TED Talk. He spoke about the power of time off and had me mesmerized when he so eloquently described the typical linear life. 25 years learning, followed by 40 years working, capped off with a final 15 years of retirement. He decided to take some of those retirement years and intersperse them into his working years by taking a 1-year sabbatical every 7 years. During his sabbaticals, his design studio closes and he spends an entire year conducting experiments designed to inspire the next 7 years of work upon his return. As I listened to him speak, I thought I could do my own version of that. Becoming a journeyman, I reasoned, would need to be different from working, freelancing, or going back to school. The master practitioners in my field aren't just sitting on their hands waiting to teach. When you're hired, it's to do a job that needs doing. Learning and developing intuition is an outcome of doing the work and having experiences rather than a boon of devoted tutelage. Freelancing rarely provides time for instructional conversations or gives you the full picture on a project. And while I might learn a lot going back to school, there is no current learning environment designed for my precise needs, somewhere between executive education and earning another master's degree. The current masters, the ones I wanted to work with, are on the front lines in jobs. The typical method for gathering knowledge from working practitioners is to interview them for a couple of hours, resulting in an article or interview transcript in a book. I felt strongly that to uncover new approaches and new ways of working, I'd have to spend more time than an interview would allow. I thought about the types of people I wanted to work with. Ideally, I'd have my pick from among those in the most progressive companies, or at least from the change agents swimming upstream in the more traditional companies. However, those folks would be quite busy. They wouldn't be able to drop what they were doing to work with me for 8 hours a day. So what if I set out on a more ethnographic endeavor to maximize our time together? What if I asked some innovative master practitioners to host me in their homes? I could offer them some cross-pollination, some renewed enthusiasm for their own work, and contribute to their projects. In exchange, I would see their lives more intimately by sharing commutes and weekends. These newly forged relationships might carry on beyond a couple of weeks and last throughout my career. I sat down and emailed potential master craftsmen and craftswomen. I also posted the idea on my blog and mentioned it in the survey to see if there were any progressives out there I hadn't thought to approach. I explained that I'd love to spend a couple of weeks working with them and learning from them and, oh yes, staying in their house. And the most magical thing happened. People said yes. And not reluctantly either. I absolutely, unconditionally, passionately love this idea. Actually, love it doesn't do it justice. It's leave my wife for it adoration. I won't tell Jill that. She might not be that happy to hear that she's lost out to an idea from someone I've never met. Rob Campbell. I have wanted to contact you for a while now. First of all, congratulations. Great move, and I'm sure one day you will look back at this decision and say it was one of the best things that ever happened to your life. I want to invite you over to Beijing, Ruben Golistan. Yeses began rolling in from all around the globe. I was giddy. Who doesn't want to see more of the world? It's rare to find people who don't enjoy travel. They probably marry the people who don't like music. My earlier research while working on an airline account had taught me the importance of disorienting ourselves through international travel. I'd read studies that showed traveling, and especially living abroad, makes us more creative and intelligent. I'd already experienced the secret tonic of difference and distance when I left the US and moved to the Netherlands. And even while based there, I had clients in Italy, Switzerland, and Dubai. I went to meetings in London and Berlin. I took holidays in Cyprus and Honduras. I'd already, in some sense, traveled the world and developed an appreciation for the magnificent cultural diversity on the planet. Yet I'd never traveled to Asia. Now I could fix this. As it turned out, 9 top marketing strategists from places as different as Seattle and Shanghai agreed to this crazy proposal to let me stay with them for 2 weeks each. But why would anyone agree to let some unfamiliar lump of cells into their home? I was about to find out. I had some money saved and no boyfriend to threaten to break up with me if I left Amsterdam, my home at the time. I could freelance in between my Journeyman weeks and rent out my place on Airbnb to further stave off destitution. Besides, I really love taking on things that other people don't dare do. Nervous, but also excited, I quit my job and started booking flights. I decided to write a book about my experiences to help make me more disciplined about retaining all that I would learn. I wasn't militant about rules for my experiment. This was not to be a quantitative endeavor. And with limited time on this planet, I knew I wouldn't achieve a representative sample. All of my mentors ended up being Western. All but one were men. I would have liked to go to Argentina, Australia, and India as well, but I wasn't able to find hosts there. You are listening to the fruit of my year-long journey. In brain surfing, you will meet 9 masters who each taught me something I might never have learned otherwise, and who all broadened my approach as a strategist. I now have a council of mentors, ranging from modern-minded to radical, who invested in me. And by writing this book, I'm investing in you. I hope you will find inspiration, new tools, and ideas within these pages that you can immediately apply to your work, and maybe even your life.